Welcome to the MidwestSports.net channel, and you have arrived at the summit. Hi, I'm Joey McWilliams. Glad to be with you tonight, along with John Cooper from NAIAFBALL. We are live here on my channel, and John has his channel going. He actually will have some stuff going on a little bit later on, so I'm glad, John, I get to visit with you guys first, to get to visit with you before your show actually comes on a little bit later on this week. Man, you have been busy. You have been coaching high school kids to a great playoff run, and then watching all kinds of NAIA football the day after. I mean, lots going on. I hope you're having a good time this time of year.
Absolutely. Even with the heartbreaking Florida High School Association 1-point semifinal playoff loss on a extra point, you take special teams for granted, but elite teams, they have great special teams this time of the year, and just one didn't go our way. But, it's the best time, like you said, Joey. You got major college football having their bowl games, everywhere from FCS all the way down to JUCO, NAIA, D3 having their playoffs. This is the month that matters. The coaches that get paid, Joey, win in the month of December. You know that.
I know that. And it's a fun time. It's a fun time to watch. It's a fun time to talk about football. And I know that's what we get to do right now. So let's get into that. We are talking NAIA football tonight, 2019 playoffs. We're looking at quarterfinal games from the Saturday gone by, and we'll talk a little bit about the semifinal matchups that have been paired up for us, and we'll get to see this weekend, this first Saturday in December. So let's go back. Last day in November, 4 big games, all taking place at the same time. I don't know how you get to watch all those things at the same time. It's kind of tough. Number 1 team in the country shows again why it is the number 1 team in the country. Morningside, 51, St. Xavier, nothing.
Joey, St. Xavier got that taste of medicine last year, going over to Morningside in the second round, and it's deja vu again. The Cougars had a great year, but it just shows you they were no match for Morningside. Dolanchek went off. Arnaje Ponder had a heck of a game. Joey, as a guy that's watched Morningside closely here the last few years, Morningside just ran their base offense. I mean, obviously, there was no need to do anything else crazy. It was an absolute blowout. But, when they're in trouble, they start running slow screens, slip screens, just to get the ball to their playmakers, like we witnessed in the national championship game last year against Benedictine. Morningside has not been in trouble yet. They've made some great play-action passes. Arnaje Ponder with the zone runs. I'm looking forward to this in-state matchup coming up, but hats off to St. Xavier for another great season.
Well, and it really didn't matter as much from the standpoint of the offense when your defense does what Morningside's defense does. And with all the things that you talk about on the offensive side of the ball, and John, they're all very, very impressive. Really, at this point, one score wins it. I mean, you've got
Absolutely.
A Morningside defense that personally, and I realize – they're probably not. I realize insiders in here watch this and say, okay, we all know about Morningside's defense. But it's the offense that gets all the publicity because you're putting up more than 56 points a game. But let's look at 3 numbers here really quickly. 9, 2, and 2. 9 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Fumble recovery.
Right.
So, yeah.
When you're putting your offense in such a good position, that's just the recipe of the blowout. You got David Rios over there on the defensive line, number 44, just causing havoc all year. I think that Joey gets to double-digit sacks by next week. And, Morningside's very creative how they bring up their pressure and get their blitzes off. They're chaotic for anybody.
Yeah, and it's a tough matchup, and for St. Xavier trying to get past that second round. When you look up and you see you've been paired again with Morningside, there's just not much they can do. So Morningside advances. The number 2 team in the country would be Marion, and Marion, again, a shutout in this game as well. Marion 30, University of the Cumberlands, nothing.
Joey, I actually picked against Marion. I thought Reinhardt at times, not their offense. Reinhardt's offense is pitiful at times, one-dimensional. They didn't get over 100 total yards. But the defense for Reinhardt made Marion look a little bit vulnerable. And Darter, the quarterback at Marion, he needs a lot of help around him for that offense to have success. It's just not that kind of quarterback for him to just do it on himself. But, Cumberland's offense, Joey, Marion's defense is absolutely legit. Cumberlands was lucky to surpass the 100-yard mark. They only got the 120 yards.
Well, you listen, and here's exactly why. The Marion defense forced 11 punts. 11 punts in that game, got the ball 2 more times by way of interceptions. 11 of the possessions for Cumberlands were either 3 or 4 plays. 11 out of 13 possessions, only 3 or 4 plays. So, I mean, how much more can you say about this Marion defense?
It's just unbelievable. Cumberlands couldn't get any running back in their stable, and they have a heck of a stable. Joey, Cumberlands used to be that wing T power team in the Mid-South. Now they're more spread, but, the offensive line follows a lot of wing T principles with a lot of dip and rip action, and Cumberlands could not get to the second level for their blocking schemes. When you're doubling that 3 technique out of Marion and he just clogs the hole, you're going to have a bad time.
Right, and so that Marion goes ahead, gets the victory there. Another shutout. We've talked about 2 games so far, 2 shutouts, and I think already before you go any further, you just have to say, at least through the quarterfinals, it's been all about the defense, which brings us to the next game that I want to talk about: Grandview, College of Idaho, and the Vikings pull off a 14-6 win over College of Idaho. And John, I don't recall who you picked in this game, but it was a tight one.
I was a big believer in Darius James Peterson, the quarterback at College of Idaho. He was our player of the week for the opening round against Ottawa, Arizona. He just lit up the scoreboard.
Well, 70 points. I mean, wow.
Yeah, right. And you had no one in their right mind thought that Grandview, as great as they are, if you go down DAC stats and look down their statistics, their defense is in the top 20 of all of them. And, for them to contain just a guy that has a rocket for an arm, can get out and go. College of Idaho loves to sprint them out. And to beat a team that had 20-plus starters that came back, like the way they did, just holding them to 6 points is just unbelievable. We talk about Joe Woodley all the time, first-year coach taking over for his dad. What an amazing year he's had. And, can it translate to the Morningside game, what we're about to talk about later? That's the big question.
That's one of those things, too. I mean, as Coach Woodley had been with the program since its inception 12 years ago. I had a real good opportunity to visit with him, so please check that out on the channel as well. But, to be with the program that long, his first year coming in, and all he's done is won every game in 13 that they've played. So clearly It was the right decision to go with him. And I don't care. Well, he's playing with the players that were there when he got in. That's all right.
Right.
He's getting the job done with those players.
Joey, Grandview did it without their starting quarterback.
That's the other thing. That is exactly right. Johnny Sullivan has put up good numbers this year. Sullivan, I think, more than 1,800 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions the whole season. He came in for Firkin after week 3 or week 4. Ben Firkin, the starting quarterback last year, and Sullivan comes in. He gets hurt. Firkin comes back in, and he was ready to play, got the job done, gets a touchdown pass, the first score of the afternoon for Grandview to put them up 7-3. They come off an interception, come right back down the field because a couple plays later, and Jerry Lowe punches one in for the score there. 14 points. It turned out to be all that they needed, but you're exactly right. I mean, this is not probably the way that Coach Woodley had drawn it up heading into the playoffs.
No, not at all. And just the fact that we are here in the Final Four, Joey, with all undefeated teams, I really need to look back and see when the last time we've had a semifinals with all undefeated teams. This year has been nothing but dominant for the teams at the top.
Yeah,
so
nine of the 16 teams, John, 9 of the 16 teams coming into the playoffs were undefeated.
Yeah, that made the playoff committee, not our playoff committee, but the NAIA office, that makes the work easy when picking teams. But, now we're seeing the cream of the crop here soon.
That's true. And we go back to the last time that you and I had a chance to talk on the summit, and really there were, it was an easy select. We thought so too. There were only 2 teams that you and I talked about that said, maybe, just maybe,
right.
In southeastern Florida. And we see, by the way, news has come out that Coach Bearfield is moving on from Southeastern. Yeah. And so that's some breaking news right there, possibly. And then, of course, Langston being the other team. But, yeah, we were satisfied with the way that they got it done. But you're right, it does make it a lot easier when you have 9 of them without a blemish.
Right, absolutely right.
Well, your other quarterfinal matchup on the weekend, and this was the one that, now I actually picked Grandview. Sorry, John, I did. I may not have been in my right mind for that one, but I did. But But I did pick Kansas Wesleyan. Felt like that the Coyotes had an opportunity. And by the way, I was thinking Lindsey Wilson was a good team. Really felt like this would probably be the best game of the day. And it might have been. I mean, good matchup between Grandview and College of Idaho, but these two teams went back and forth. Lindsey Wilson gets what you could say is an upset, maybe not an upset, I'm not sure.
Right.
The only road team to win on the 4 games, 35-24, and it was actually closer than that. You get one more score at the very, very end to punch it up to an 11-point victory. But they went back and forth all day long. One team scores, the other one scores. One team scores, the other one scores. And unfortunately for Kansas Wesleyan, their first score was a field goal. And after that, all touchdowns, just could not get over the hump.
You know, Joey, you talked about going back and forth. There was only one punt in that game that had a chance to be returned because there are such few punts. And Lindsey Wilson pulled it out at the end. There's 2 quarterbacks that I've ridden all season that I've been very impressed with. We just talked about Darius James Peterson at College Idaho, but Cameron Dukes is another one that's just been over there, that's started forever, it feels like, for Lindsey Wilson. And, we talk about all the time, Joey, and people just think I'm an idiot all the time for saying this. When Lindsey Wilson gets in trouble, and they were in trouble, Joey, you saw it, back and forth, Cameron Dukes is going to run, whether it's a scramble or a design run call. And he got almost 50 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown sealed up the game.
Yes, it did. And listen, he's done it all season long. Again, you look at the numbers for the entire year, more than 268 yards passing per game, 35 touchdown passes for the season. Dukes really has been the man. And, when you're able to outshine your counterpart, when your counterpart is Kansas Wesleyan's Johnny Foto, who has had a phenomenal season
first team All-American.
Exactly.
Yeah, first team All-American today.
And Dukes shines in that matchup. That shows you've had a good day.
Right, and I think bottom line, Joey, if Kansas Wesleyan didn't earn anybody's respect in the KCAC, they should have this year. A great playoff run, even though they only won 1 game in the playoffs. And, I'm sure their players are very disappointed. But they went out, smacked the in-state Hart team, and then they should have, I'm sure the ball would have bounced different ways or something different would have. They were neck and neck with the best of the Mid-South had to offer, Lindsey Wilson.
Yeah, you're right, and I agree with you entirely. I felt like that Kansas Wesleyan really did, for the most of the season, get a bum rap with all the naysayers there. But you come out, you get the 42-7 victory over an in-state opponent from the Heart, and people said you need to beat a team from a tough conference. They did just that. Heart of America is a very deep conference, and Kansas Wesleyan did get the win there. Well, Coach Hendrickson in year 1. I definitely grade A+ for him in year 1, no doubt. And he has a number of players coming back. So there are your 4 games in the quarterfinals. Let's move on to the semifinal matchups then, and they were announced not long after those games took place. The games will be played again at the higher-seeded team. It wasn't the matchups I was hoping for, I'll be honest with you. I was hoping it would go the other way.
Yes.
But this is what it looks like. Grandview at Morningside and Lindsey Wilson at Marion. The one that is closer to, the states that I cover more, definitely with Iowa, is going to be that first matchup there. Grandview at Morningside. This matchup does not have a long history. As a matter of fact, they faced each other only one time before. In-state, they faced each other only one time before. That was in the semifinals 6 years ago, and Grandview with a 35-0 win on a way to a national championship.
Joey, you talk about it. This should have flipped. And I understand the NAIA wants to save money with the traveling, but there's a reason why all 90-plus schools pitch in at the beginning of the year to help offset this travel. I just think it's a little bit unfair to the kids, but I understand at the end of the day it's a business. So let's just get to the topic. This is the game you wanted. 2 in-state teams going at it, Morningside, Grandview. And the question is, can Grandview's – we talked about earlier, Morningside's defense always props up Morningside's offense to successful situations. Can Grandview not allow that to happen? I think it's going to be a battle of field position between these two for Grandview to even have a chance. If they let Morningside get propped up with great field position, it's going to be a rout. And honestly, Joey, in my opinion, and there's a lot of Grandview Viking friends that I'm buddies with, but Morningside, Grandview is going to have to be on the top of their game, and Morningside is just going to have a little off, and Grandview's got to help for some help.
We talked about the defense being key through all four of the games last Saturday, and I think it's going to be key again. You talk about that in the stellar Morningside defense, and Nordine and Claiborne, a couple of seniors. By the way, they're the two young men that got the interceptions last week to just continue to help the defense roll and make it a lot easier for the offense. I agree with you. And Dolenchek is going to have his. I mean, this is a guy that's putting up 305 passing yards per game, hasn't slowed down. The AP Ponder is going to get his, and he's got. I mean, it's a stable of backs back there with him. It's not just him.
Right.
I mean, you've got you have Sims back there with him as well. You have Capella back there with him as well. Then all the receivers. You start with Els. You go to Juergensmeyer. You just keep on rolling. That offense is going to be there. Ben Firkin showed what he can do. And that he can get Grandview to another win and keep them going. Survive and advance, you always talk about in the playoffs. Is it going to be enough, though, for Grandview? And you're right, it's going to have to take, I don't know about the perfect game, but pretty close. And Morningside, I would say, has to be favored.
And that's got to be the question. Can Grandview just be efficient enough on offense to where they can just chip away and have their chance near the end of the game? That's just what I'm feeling, Joey. And I honestly don't think they can. I have Morningside winning this game. We talked about the stable of running backs, but those receivers you just listed are absolutely legitimate when they get them in space, and just the design. And you watch film on them whenever you get a chance to watch Morningside. They flow in natural triangles out there, so it's easy for a 1-2-3 read for Dolenchek. And just the culture that Morningside's built. I just don't know if Coach Woodley in his first year as the head man could just pull off this epic upset. I think they have a great game, but I think Morningside wins it comfortably.
All right, that is one matchup. Both these games, by the way, will take place starting at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock where I'm sitting to get to watch some of these games as well. And then the second game. Oh, by the way, before we leave Grandview, Anthony Turner. Props to Anthony Turner with his receiving yards in last week's win, crossed the 1,000-yard mark for him for the season. So props to him for Grandview. Lindsey Wilson at Marion, Cameron Dukes, Ethan Darter, but it's all about the defense.
Yeah, so Coach Henniger has done an amazing job at Marion. That front seven is just absolutely ferocious. A one-sided Reinhardt team couldn't get anything going on the ground, and they are probably one of the most physical teams in the Mid-South, even though they don't have much going for them after that. And then they just embarrass a team that Lindsey Wilson struggled to beat near the end of the year in Cumberlands to win the Bluegrass. Now, I've been picking against Marion this last week. I picked them to win the first round. They absolutely embarrassed me, but there's just something about this Lindsey Wilson team, Joey. Mid-South teams have been bullied by the mid-state teams late in playoffs. St. Francis has bullied Reinhardt. Marion's got a share of some. Lindsey Wilson's taken losses to mid-state teams before. But there's just something about this Lindsey Wilson team, just the grit they have. I'm going with Lindsey Wilson. I know I picked Marion earlier in the week, but the more I just keep thinking about it, there's just something special about this Lindsey Wilson team, and I'm just picking with my heart here instead of my head.
Well, I understand that. And hey, listen,
yes.
you have to do what you have to do, and that's cool. Well, okay, I mentioned Dukes, and I mentioned Darter. Let's mention a couple of other players really quickly. For Marion, we've talked about their defense. Let's talk about the offense. Charles Salary, almost 130 yards per game rushing. So that has to play in, because if when your defense is able to take care of business, you get the offense out there, you get a back like Salary, just push it, keep the ball, control the clock, and you can come away with a good win there. Now, we've talked about the Lindsey Wilson offense, talking about the Lindsey Wilson defense too, and it's done well through the year. I mean, all four of these teams are in the top 10 in total scoring offense and total offense, giving up yards in the NAIA. Lindsey Wilson, you look at James Todd. The guy's had 7 interceptions this year. Now, he hasn't had one in the playoffs. He's had a fumble recovery in the playoffs, hasn't had an interception in the playoffs. You got a guy that has 7 picks on a season and not one in the playoffs yet. He's probably due.
Right. And, Joey, let's get back. I just want to mention something about salary before you keep going.
Okay.
The three biggest regular season games that Marion had, here were the rushing totals. You had St. Francis. He had 42 carries. Concordia, 46. Indiana Wesleyan, 39.
Right.
Now, they haven't been tested enough to feed him the ball like that. But, Joey,
Indiana Wesleyan game, that was a bit of a test.
Yes, that was 39 carries, and they had to run the ball. I'm looking for which I do think they will. I think Lindsey Wilson will give them a test. I'm looking forward to salary at least getting over 30 carries this game.
All right. But you still are going to go ahead and go with Lindsey Wilson. That's your heart pick.
Yes, that's my heart pick. And for those that think I'm just a Lindsey Wilson fanboy, they beat me my senior year, so I'm not really a Lindsey Wilson fanboy. Even though I hope to have some dinner with Coach Oliver later in about a couple weeks.
All right.
But it's just interesting.
Okay, really quickly then. Tell us where you're going to be in a couple of weeks, because you'll get to see 2 of these 4 teams play.
Joey, I have, as a countdown right now, I have 9 days left of work the next 2 weeks. We are heading to Ruston, Louisiana for the NAIA National Championship, Grambling, Louisiana. We'll be staying in Ruston right next to it at the Grambling Stadium, the famous stadium right there. So, we're flying out. We're going to go to Monroe, Louisiana, see the Duck Dynasty guys maybe. We're going to have a good time. We are going to be watching these 2 games like a hawk. And we are excited to meet, these 2 teams, these 2 staffs, players. It's just going to be amazing. If you haven't been to an NAIA National Championship game, it's unbelievable. Morningside Benedictine really traveled well, Joey, for a 20,000, 25,000 allotted stadium in Daytona, I believe it was. They did a good job traveling.
I look forward to it. Absolutely look forward to it. Well, I will be following you all that day and definitely be promoting what you all are doing. NAIFBALL in Louisiana for the NAIA National Championship, which will be on December 21st. So keep that in mind. Well, we'll be watching on Saturday and look forward to seeing how these 2 games go, and hopefully get a chance to talk one more time between now and then, but we'll definitely be promoting that. John Cooper for NAIFBALL, thanks for stopping by and being here on the summit with me live tonight.
Joey, it's always a pleasure. Anytime we get to talk ball, always a pleasure. I know you have your own stuff coming up. I know you'll be at the Division II National Championship. So those that watch the summit, just keep watching.
That's right. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Midwest Sports Saturday will be live on December 21st at 11 a.m. Central Time from McKinney, Texas, the site of the National Championship for Division II. So we get a chance to cross-promote a little bit, and I look forward to it. Lots of football on that day, and then, Christmas after that. So maybe Christmas comes early for some folks, about 4 days early. Anyway, John,
that's right.
Thanks a lot for being with us tonight. And again, I encourage you, please do like and share this video and subscribe to this channel as well. You should subscribe to the NAIFBALL channel and subscribe to this channel, Midwest Sports Net. In the meantime, for John Cooper, I'm Joey McWilliams. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless you, and have a great night.